Today we're going to make chicken marsala. We're also going to add a special ingredient you probably haven't used, and it's getting more and more easier to find this ingredient all across the country. Full recipe, instructions, and all that good stuff coming up right now.
I'd like to show you all the ingredients so you know exactly what you're getting into before we start. All right, so the first thing we're going to have is chicken. These are thin sliced chicken cutlets. We also have mushrooms, just regular white button mushrooms. Use baby bellas if you can find them. Parsley, butter, chicken stock. And there's that special ingredient, smoked prosciutto. If you can't find this, you can get regular prosciutto. I had the deli counter slice it thick. There's Marsala wine. And some heavy cream, which I used to thicken the sauce, but you don't need that. You could just use cornstarch. Got some pepper. So I'm going to make some strips of this smoked prosciutto. And then I'm going to turn it on its side and dice it very thin here. I like a little bit thicker than, say, if you got like very thin sliced prosciutto, but this will render in the pan somewhat and get a little crispy. And it's just a delicious ingredient. But if you can't find it, totally okay. Okay, so here we got a little dirt from the mushrooms, so I use a little slightly damp paper towel and just knock off the dirt as best you can, clean them off. And then right there is the woody end of the mushroom. I always like to remove it, especially for a dish like marsala. So just with your knife, just cut off the end as close as you can. I wasn't being too careful here. Maybe I removed a little too much on a few of them, but that's okay. And just do a slice. It doesn't have to be really thin. Don't go too thick, but you could go a little thick. It doesn't matter, guys. You can do whatever you want when you're cooking. I really mean that. So I'm just going to slice them up and just put them all in a bowl off to the side. Parsley, I'm removing the stems. If you've seen plenty of my previous chicken episodes or other pastas where I use parsley, you know I'm always removing the stems. So here's the chicken. It's very thin already. I bought it this way in the store. And for marsala, I like to kind of cut them into a little bit smaller pieces. So here's the flour. We're going to get a good dredge on this chicken. And I want my flour to be very well seasoned. So a lot of salt and a lot of pepper. And don't be shy with the amount of salt and pepper. Mix it around with a fork. And if you have to add a little bit more, add a little bit more. Chicken doesn't have a lot of flavor. You want to season it very well here. So I got my flouring station. I have a pan off to the side with parchment paper. Parchment paper works very well to prepare your chicken. If you're doing fried chicken cutlets, you can do all your breading, your dredging, everything, and then just put your chicken off. Sometimes if I'm doing, a lot, I'll have a couple trays going. I find it easier this way than leaving everything over and have to keep dipping when you're frying. And there it all is. I can now clean up properly, wash my hands well, clean my cutting board, get all the chicken residue out of the way before I start cooking. So about medium heat here to medium low. We don't want to be too low. We want to get a nice sear on our chicken. So I put a little bit of oil, olive oil, and a little bit of butter. And you're going to keep using more as you do your batches. You could use a non-stick pan, but you're going to get a better sear with a non-stick pan. And it's always that first batch that you don't always get the best sear. I always find that happens. So they're looking okay. Probably could have got a little bit more color on them, but they're thin and I don't want to overcook them. So I'd rather have them not be quite as brown, but get them out instead of overcooking them and them being very brown, if you know what I mean. So I'm going to remove them all as they cook, add more oil and butter to the pan, and do another batch. And I can almost guarantee this second batch will be better than the first. And there it is better. It just always works out that way. So this took me 3 batches to do it all, and no point showing you the 3rd batch. Into that same pan, while it's hot, about medium to medium high, I'm going to do my mushrooms. I'm not going for a crazy sear here or anything. If you want to get a really good sear and browning on your mushrooms, there's no way you'd pack the pan with that many mushrooms. But, you know, we don't got time for that, so this will be fine, and this will be good. So when they're cooked through, when they release their water, I take them off to the side, put them in another bowl, and then into that hot pan, I'm adding my smoked prosciutto. About 5 or 10 minutes. I'm going to let it get nice and brown, nice and crispy. And I'm going to remove most of it from the pan after it gets nice and crispy. I'll leave some of it in, probably 1/3 of it in. Here's my Marsala wine. This is sweet Marsala I'm using. Smoking up here. Just keep your head back whenever you put alcohol in a pan. Always keep your head back. Watch your eyebrows. So I put 1/2 cup of it in, and 1/2 cup of chicken stock. The amount of liquid you use is going to be dictated by how much chicken that you're cooking and how much sauce you need. But it's 1 to 1, so equal parts wine to chicken stock. And I'm going to boil it out for a couple minutes, let it reduce a little bit, and then taste it. And make sure the sauce tastes good. When I'm happy with that, you lower your heat a little bit and add your butter in. And I'm just going to mix that around, forming my sauce. I'm putting some heavy cream in here, which, it's just not thickening up enough. After you'll see as I go on here. I just wasn't happy with it. And with a lot of these dishes, piccata, franchise, there's nothing wrong ever if you use cornstarch. So I mixed about 1.5 tablespoons with a little bit of water, maybe 1 ounce or 2. Put it in, maybe half I used here. Turned up the heat, and then look at this. It actually thickened probably a little too much. So I'm adding a tiny bit of water now to thin that out. And guys, this is cooking. This is real life cooking here. You'll get really good at this though. And you'll get good at, compensating and making the changes. So I'm tasting again now. Seeing if I need more salt and pepper. I'm liking it. It tastes really good. Adding the chicken in. And the chicken's already cooked through, so we're just going to warm it through into the sauce. Keep the sauce very low right now. You could even turn it off. And put your mushrooms back in. Let them get warmed up too. Marsala is a great dish. It's a real easy dish. It's a real easy dish that I know you guys can make. I know you can make it just like this, if not better than I made it. And, definitely check out my other chicken dishes. I got franchise, piccata, sorrentino. I'll have chicken cutlets up probably at this point by the time you see this one. Don't forget to add your parsley on like I just did. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do. And just watch the playlist coming up.